weeks away, days burn, disintegrate, years roll along and fade. Don't let them slip away. Right here, right now, today. These are the good old days. Right here, right now, today. Hey, these are the good old days.
In 1930, the mysterious character of the Shadow was created to be the narrator of a mysterious radio drama. Due to demand at the newsstand for more characters in magazines starring this mysterious Shadow character, Walter B. Gibson was hired to create a backstory and flesh out the character of the Shadow, who quickly became a crime fighter who used mystic arts to cloud the minds of men he was battling. The popularity of this character took off, and the Shadow appeared in numerous pulp magazines, books, and radio dramas and comic strips. He even appeared in some TV shows and some movies throughout the 1950s. Now, in 1994, in the midst of a resurgence of movies about comic book and pulp characters such as Dick Tracy, the Phantom, and the Rocketeer, along came The Shadow, starring Alec Baldwin, a major Hollywood motion picture about this 1930s pulp character. Now, the movie did not do well financially or critically. However, I will say, if you go back and watch the opening scene on the bridge with the Shadow doing battle, it does an excellent job of capturing the vibe and the essence of the character, the Shadow. Now, one of the coolest things that came along with this movie was the action figure tie-in by Kenner. Now, these figures stood about 4.5 to 5 inches tall and were classic Kenner figures. What does that mean? Well, it means they had action features when you squeeze their legs, and they were very toyetic. Now, these figures are relatively inexpensive to buy on the secondary market, even mint on card. They're even cheaper if you buy them loose. They're even cheaper if you buy them loose and incomplete. And that's what we're looking at today. 2 loose and incomplete figures we found in a bin. We're going to pick them up, dust them off, give them a hug, and get them back on the shelf. So the 2 Shadow figures we're looking at today are Ambush Shadow and Lightning Draw Shadow. Both of these shadows will need capes and guns. The first step is to draw out our pattern for our cape. And so I've done that here. And our template for this will be available on our Facebook page for download. Once we have our cape pattern cut out, we're going to cut out a second one. So we have one for each figure. Then we're going to take those templates and tape them down to some black material, much like we did for our Splinter robe in our Ninja Turtles video. And once we have these taped up, we can cut them out and get our shadows their capes.
45th and Madison. You are a barbarian.
Thank you.
Now these capes had 2 different colors, black on the outside and a different color inside. So once we have them cut out, we're going to cut out the inside. So we're going to start with blue, and that's for the Ambush Shadow. So we're just going to do the same thing and cut out our template, and then we're going to stick the 2 pieces together. Now, the method we're going to use to stick them together may seem a little bit Sunday school crafty, but what I've found the best that adhere these 2 together is a simple kindergarten-style glue stick. So, alright, so recalling our old kindergarten glue stick skills, we're going to put a piece of paper down and fold this collar back onto it so that we can spread glue all right to the edges without it getting on anything. This may seem like a bizarre approach, but trust me, it's going to work great. So you want to put it on nice and gently. You don't want to stretch the material too much. So you're going to put a generous dose of glue onto the material, and then you're going to fold it back onto the black one and adhere them together. Don't worry about it lining up too perfect at this point in time because we're going to trim it after. So we're going to repeat the process with the bigger part of the cape, folding it over and applying some glue onto it. And so again, you just put a healthy amount of glue onto that cape. And then you fold it back over and adhere it to the black part. Now once you have it pretty much lined up, I like to put a piece of paper on top of it and just really compress it against a table or something flat and hard and make sure those 2 pieces of material are really stuck together. Now we're going to repeat the entire process with a piece of red material for Lightning Draw Shadow. So now we have our 2 capes here, and with the nature of material, they're not going to line up perfectly.
So we're just going to take our scissors and trim the edges so that we have some nice clean edges. Also, with the glue stick we use, it'll prevent the edges of the material from fraying, so it'll keep your edges looking nicer longer. So once we have all our edges trimmed, the capes are going to look more or less pretty good. So the next step is to now get our action figures and adhere the capes to their necks. So how we're going to do that is we're going to take, what I have here is an old dried out Crayola marker. So essentially it's just a plastic tube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a knife and I'm just going to cut off a few rings of this tube. I'm going to cut off 3, and once I have those cut, there we go, just be very careful cutting, don't want to cut yourself. Once you have the 3 rings cut, I'm going to take those rings and I'm going to put a notch in them, or a cut in them, and open them up a little bit. And then once we have that notch cut and the rings opened up, it should be just as simple as flipping your figure over and using that to kind of be a clamp to hold the cape onto the neck. So you just open it up, clamp it on there, and the tension should hold that cape on your shadow figure. And already you can see the shadow is looking really kind of impressive. That two-tone cape really pops. And then we're going to repeat the process for ambushed shadow. Again, putting the collar around his neck to clamp the cape on. And right away, again, you can see this shadow figure is looking kind of better than he ever has. In a long time, anyways. So it holds the capes on there pretty well, and he starts looking fantastic. Now, because of his action feature, we're going to take that 3rd ring we cut, and we're going to put another notch in it. And we're going to take a hobby knife here, and we're going to cut 2 slits in near the edge of this cape. And what those slits are going to do is we're going to run this ring through the cape, kind of weed it through there, so that the figure's hand can hold on to it, which will create the effect that he's holding the cape in front of his face, kind of like in a vampire pose, so that he can hide his identity while he's drawing his 6-shooter or his pistol on an impending enemy. So you can see here, once it's in his hand, it works pretty great. It's a really, really cool little action feature for this toy.
We need each other.
No, we don't.
We have a connection.
No, we don't.
Then how do you explain that I can read your thoughts?
My thoughts are hard to miss.
And why is that?
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
So next up is the Shadow's gun. So what I've done in a 3D space is I've created the models of the Shadow's gun to make it look as much like the Kenner gun as I can. And I think we got it pretty close there. You can see here the GoFigure gun versus the Kenner gun. It may not be exactly the same, but it really kind of captures that the feel and the style of the time. So I'll put a link to the downloadable file on the description here of the video. And you can see here, once we have those guns printed off, they fit right into his hand and they look kind of awesome.
The Shadow knows.
So there you go. We've taken 2 Kenner Shadow figures out of the bin, we've rescued them, we got them back ready for the shelf, and we had a lot of fun doing it. Let us know in the comment section below your favorite 90s pulp or comic strip movie that came out, and your favorite action figure line that tied in with those movies. If you like what we're doing, if you had as much fun as we did today, like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the YouTube stuff, and hopefully, we'll see you next week.
I'll be there, around every corner, in every empty room, as inevitable as your guilty conscience.